Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking a single profound journey through, well, a duality. It's a profile that spans both geography and internal psychology.
That's right.
We're really examining how a place can define a philosophy and then how that philosophy can completely reshape an individual's identity.
And we are diving deep into the Zykova Devon profile.
Exactly.
Yeah, and our sources for this are just fascinating. We have this stack of lyric excerpts, internal reflection documents, and these incredibly detailed societal profiles. They reveal Zykova, which is this society forged in just relentless frost and industry.
And on the other side,
Devon, an internal archetype who used that exact harsh structure as his blueprint for a radical transformation in 2025.
so this isn't just about a character study. It feels like a deep examination of self-mastery.
It really is.
Our mission today is to pull out the key insights on accountability, what resilience really means, and how this core philosophy, this idea that we are what we choose to become, how that moves someone from being, a guilt-ridden, isolated fortress to a disciplined strategist.
Yeah.
We need to see the mechanism of the change,
Not just the result.
not just the result. Now,
And the complexity here, I think, lies in recognizing that the metaphor is the framework.
it's not just a backdrop.
No, not at all. The unforgiving environment of Zykova, it isn't just scenic, it's a direct mirror
A mirror of what?
of that cold, controlled internal landscape Devon was living in back in 2024. And then we're going to track the shift, this brutal, necessary reckoning that takes the harsh lessons of Zykova and applies them for redemption, not repression.
Okay, so this requires a granular look.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start by setting the stage. Let's start with the society that defines the terms.
So before we even get to the internal transformation, we really have to grasp the external framework.
Right.
Zykova it's more than a region. It is a philosophy that's been codified in stone and ice and labor. It's an operating system where discipline is the #1 survival mechanism.
The geography itself sounds like an antagonist. I mean, our sources place Zykova tucked away in the extreme northeast. It's defined by these vast alpine ridges and stark, snowy plateaus.
Old continental alpine climate.
Yeah, which means long, heavy, snowbound winters and these brief, cool summers. I mean, it sounds completely unsuitable for anyone to live there.
And yet they thrive. And this is the first critical insight into Zykova. They view their environment not as a limitation to overcome, but as a crucible that refines necessity.
So the structure is ideal in their eyes.
It is. Why? Because the geology is rich. It's perfect for mining heavy, precious resources from under the Blackstone.
So their environment basically sets their economic destiny. But what about that insularity? The sources mention the northern mountains creating a unique shield.
Yes, exactly. Those towering peaks, they function as both a physical and, I think, a metaphorical boundary. They create a rain shadow effect, and that leads to this dry air descending onto what they call the frozen plateau.
And that results in
A distinct insular ecosystem. It forces immediate, deep dependence on local resources and, crucially, collective action.
so isolation is built right into the topography.
It is. It teaches them self-reliance through enforced necessity.
And that idea of enforced necessity must define their building practices completely. What does the architecture tell us about their core values?
It tells us they value endurance and practicality above all else. We see these steep-roofed stone lodges.
Built specifically to shed snow.
Right, to shed the enormous snow loads quickly before they crush the structure. Heavy timber framing for internal rigidity. And then near the industrial zones, the foundries and smelters they're fortress-like. Massive reinforced brick and metal.
But the detail that just jumps out at me is the small, high windows. In any other culture, large windows are a sign of prosperity, right? Access to light.
But here they're small and few.
Why?
They minimize the weakness. Those small apertures are purely functional, designed to keep precious heat inside.
That's a powerful symbol.
Isn't it? It communicates a whole philosophy that resources, whether it's heat, energy, or emotion, they're too scarce and vital to be wasted on anything unnecessary.
Including aesthetics or excess visibility.
Every joule of energy has to be conserved. And this physical reality, this becomes the metaphor for the internal control that Devon later adopts.
Okay, so this scarcity mentality, it dictates that every single aspect of life is repurposed for survival.
Exactly. In Zykova, there's no ornamental plant life. Every single piece of flora is a vital resource with a specific, hard-earned function.
I was so fascinated by the names of the flora. Like, take the frost pine. Tall, narrow conifers. They're the main source of timber.
adapted to the dry, cold air.
Yeah, and then there's blood moss. It grows secretly, almost defiantly, under the snow.
And it's crucial for insulation in the stone lodges. It transforms a humble plant into a vital commodity for thermal regulation.
And the ice thistle, a sharp, spiky alpine shrub?
Not cuddly.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But its anti-inflammatory sap is critical.
Yeah.
I mean, living a physically demanding life of mining and heavy labor means constant wear and tear.
So that sap is medicine, born directly from the harsh environment. The land provides exactly what is needed to withstand the life it imposes.
And the food reflects this exact same utilitarianism. It's described as a testament to survival, not indulgence.
We are talking high-density, high-calorie, preserved food designed for sustained physical output.
Right. Elk bone stew.
Rich in root vegetables and that essential bone marrow for energy.
Frost bread, this dense fermented loaf that lasts for months, and glacier pickles.
Glacier pickles, I mean, these are preserved root crops and fish cured in snow brine, heavy on preservation techniques.
That name alone tells you the flavor profile. Salty, sour, preserved, smoky. Food is fuel. It's designed to endure.
And they even innovate. They're growing barley and frost root tubers in geothermal plots. Necessity is truly the mother of their invention.
And this pragmatism defines their communication. Their language is just devoid of fluff. It mirrors the scarcity of the environment.
Their mottos are tools for motivation.
Hard things shape strong hands.
Stillness keeps the heat. There is just no room for small talk or, emotional meandering.
Let's talk about the slang, because this is where the culture's values really become clear. To bite the frost.
To face hardship without complaint. It's an internal command for stoicism.
Or dig deep.
Encouragement to find inner reserves. These are survival mandates.
But the term that I found most insightful was dead wind. It's reserved for betrayal or a broken vow. So to them, a broken promise isn't just a social slight.
It's an emotional, environmental catastrophe. It evokes that chilling emptiness of the plateau when the air is still and deadly. Trust is a vital resource.
And its loss is like facing a lethal, resource-stripping blizzard.
Yeah. And their music reinforces this solemnity, too. It's the sound of strength found in enduring silence. We hear these powerful work chants, deep throat song harmonies for rhythmic mining shanties, and somber wind instrument dirges.
And the instruments are made from scarcity, too, right?
Yeah, born of it. Horn flutes carved from the bone of glacier elk, throat drums from hollow wood and hide. The themes are always about survival and inner strength through disciplined silence.
So noise and idleness.
Our luxuries, they just cannot afford. Their music is functional. It paces their labor, helps them endure the cold, and provides a collective rhythm for survival.
So if the environment is the crucible, then the social system is the framework that guarantees that survival. And what's fascinating about Zykova's class system is that it's harsh, but it's entirely meritocratic. The hierarchy is rooted purely in measurable contributions, skill, and output.
Not wealth, not birthright.
It's the ultimate performance review.
It is. The foremen are seasoned leaders, elevated purely by proven competence. The guild hands are the backbone, defined by their labor. And then you have the hollow-worn, the youth or outsiders.
A term that doesn't imply failure, but incompleteness. An incomplete identity.
You have no identity until you have produced and contributed.
But the most compelling societal element has to be the unfrozen. This rare, almost mythical title for those who survived total isolation on the frozen plateau and returned, profoundly changed.
They become spiritual leaders. Often after enduring significant trauma, they valorize extreme solitude and trauma as a source of deep internal insight.
So the society recognizes that the deepest knowledge often comes from surviving absolute isolation, from facing your darkest moments alone.
Which is critical because while Devon later realizes that isolation was toxic for him, Zykova argues that the mastery learned during isolation is essential for leadership.
That creates an immediate tension, doesn't it? Zykova respects the person who survived the fortress, but Devon needs to realize the fortress itself must fall.
And the key is context. The unfrozen return to serve the collective. Devon needed to leave his isolation to join his chosen pack. For Zykova, if you survive isolation and don't return to contribute, you fail. Period.
Mobility in the society is earned solely through perseverance. Boasting is despised. It's an empty gesture.
A waste of collective energy.
Their definition of family is intensely practical, too. It's built on shared burden. Lineage is often tied to guild affiliation.
Which just reinforces that identity is forged through action, not simply genetics.
And the rite of passage of the second name emphasizes this. They're only given after a defining life moment that proves endurance or character.
Like Kara Frostvale for surviving a major blizzard. It's a title you earn through action and survival, not one you inherit.
Their rituals are equally stark and focused on contribution. Greetings are quiet nods, acknowledging presence, avoiding idle chatter.
Gift-giving is rare, but when it happens, it's a meticulously crafted item representing the giver's genuine effort and skill. No sentimental fluff.
Which brings us to the ash fork death ritual.
So powerful. The deceased's ashes are literally forged into tools.
Embedding ancestral memory right into the instruments of daily labor.
Imagine the weight of that legacy. Your past contribution literally arms the next generation. It is the ultimate expression of collective accountability.
And then there's the dark side of that accountability. Public shame through the empty plate hours.
If you fail to contribute, you sit silently with an empty plate at communal meals. It enforces collective values using ritual silence.
It's nonviolent, but incredibly powerful social pressure.
And it forces reflection. In a society where resources are scarce, taking without contributing is a threat to everyone. They use silence, not shouting, to enforce values.
Okay, let's turn to governance. The Council of Iron is non-hereditary, made up of trusted, proven guild leaders.
Leadership is a heavy operational burden. It's not a prize.
And the laws are etched on iron slabs, the Charred Code. What's the significance of etching it on iron?
Well, iron is durable, heavy, and difficult to move or alter. It symbolizes the immutable, enduring nature of the law. The law isn't meant to be fluid or subject to daily interpretation.
It's hard-won truth.
Exactly. The weight of the iron slab reinforces the gravity of the law itself.
But how do they govern effectively? Decisions require unanimous consent. That sounds like a recipe for total stagnation.
It would be. Anywhere else. But Zykova avoids this by institutionalizing these prolonged periods of ritual silence and reflection until consensus emerges.
So they see conflict as a waste of energy.
A profound waste of collective energy. You don't speak until you have fully processed the collective need and aligned your contribution to it. And this mechanism-forced internal alignment is the ultimate lesson Devon has to learn later.
And their economy ties it all together, built on heavy industry mining, metalwork, frost steel, and geothermal innovation.
With a focus on high-value, low-bulk exports. Logistically, it's the only way.
Currency includes iron marks, stamped discs, and guild tallies,
which are etched tokens representing labor hours and verified performance records. Your entire financial worth is explicitly tied to your work history and demonstrated reliability. It's radical transparency and accountability.
Which is why hoarding is so despised. They call hoarders deep dragons.
It's a potent insult. Worth is tied directly to contribution and active skill, not stored wealth.
If Zykova teaches one thing, it's that identity is forged through discipline and collective effort. We are what we choose to become.
And if Zykova views the emotional hoarding of resources as creating deep dragons, well, that sets the perfect narrative bridge.
Right.
We have to look at how Devon became an internal deep dragon by hoarding his emotions and his guilt in 2024.
So now we shift from the metaphorical landscape of Zykova to the psychological landscape of Devon. This persona, it's described as the author's shadow self.
Embodying the darker, utilitarian impulses.
Yeah.
In 2024, his psychological state was the isolated fortress.
Right. And this persona is defined by the rigid application of Zykova's harshness, but without the collective purpose.
Exactly. His core characteristics were absolute self-sufficiency, severe stoicism, and emotional suppression. He locks everything down.
He prioritized strength, analytical precision, discipline over any kind of softness like compassion or vulnerability.
And the outcome was this intense isolation, compounded by a crippling burden of guilt and a deep operational distrust of vulnerability.
Why was vulnerability so threatening to the fortress?
Because vulnerability is chaos. It introduces variables he cannot control, and in his mind, control is the only thing preventing a total collapse. His 2024 worldview was entirely Zykova without the redemption arc, a cold, internal landscape of unyielding steel and an unspoken pain.
Designed to keep the world, and most importantly, his past, at bay.
Yeah, and we have to confront the weight of the past that necessitated this fortress. The source material is clear. Devon is responsible for killing 41 people.
That scale of action creates an ethical and psychological burden that you can't just manage away with logic.
And that enormous burden is internalized and symbolized by the horns he wears.
The crown of shame. He's the architect of chaos.
He views himself as a prisoner locked inside his own space, yet one who designed the prison himself. And the horns aren't just a symbol of malice, they are a constant physical representation of dissonance.
He's a thinking being dedicated to order, yet he is responsible for maximum disorder.
So the guilt is literally externalized and made visible.
The source material, especially the Demon Days track excerpts, paints a picture of emotional suffocation. He feels emotionally buried, wrestling with despair.
And the lyrics are a raw window into this isolation. I feel the weight of the eyes that stare. That speaks to the pervasive sense of judgment, both external and internal.
And describing his inner life as a silent war I cannot win.
That indicates the decay of his own will. He's being consumed by the demon days. The fortress is actively decaying from the inside out because the suppression is just unsustainable.
So in the face of this internal chaos, Devon does what he knows best. He tries to hack his own existence.
Leans entirely on logic. He views happiness as a chemistry equation, a balance of dopamine and serotonin. He tries to optimize the human experience.
Which places him squarely in that detached observer territory.
An Enneagram 5 focus, absolutely. The 5 seeks knowledge and competency to avoid feeling helpless, and that manifests here as attempting to systematize human emotion.
So he's using a rigid utilitarian approach to ethics, the classic trolley problem.
Head over heart, always, because the heart is too messy.
But this hyper-control becomes both his shield and his cage. He's so focused on system efficiency, he misses the humanity.
And this control is why the relationships he formed in 2024 were so critical. They weren't just side characters. They were the crucible that forced cracks in the isolated fortress.
Each person chipped away at a specific aspect of his repression.
That's a good way to put it.
Let's detail those critical dynamics, because they show the slow, painful dismantling of his walls. Kelly, for instance, pushes aggressively against his emotional detachment.
Kelly is the emotional agitator. She forces him to articulate his fears. The source notes that when he finally admits fear to her, he has to use his stoicism just to handle the admission itself.
It's a flicker of honesty that requires massive internal energy.
And it highlights how fragile his suppression really is. She exposes the underlying fear beneath the discipline.
Then there's Kenny, who acts as the philosophical sparring partner.
Kenny challenges the intellectual premise of the fortress, constantly forcing these head versus heart debates. Kenny makes him justify his rigid, illogical worldview.
But in doing so,
He highlights the emotional vacuum that the logic is trying to fill.
and Val, however, challenges him on a strategic level. She calls out his need for quick fixes, immediate closure.
Val sees the long game. She forces him to look past efficiency and consider the long-term impact his controlled, quick solutions have on others. She points out his deepest fear, that his need for control is actually blinding him to the bigger picture.
And to the necessary slowness of emotional processing.
She forces the strategist to slow down and acknowledge the external human cost.
And finally, Tia. She sounds like the emotional anchor.
Tia offers comfort without demanding an explanation or pushing for a solution. She provides the safety net that allows the wall to truly crumble.
And the pivotal moment.
It's when he's reflecting on life and death in a cemetery and he finally admits to her that he is afraid of vulnerability itself.
That's the moment the emotional dam breaks.
Yes. He realizes the depth of his isolation, how emotionally buried he feels. The logic fails to process the pain, and he finally acknowledges the fear.
The Demon Days musical arc is the sonic documentation of this collapse.
It is. It traces his descent and, crucially, his surrender to the necessity of change.
This needs to be slow and reflective, I think, to convey the weight of his transformation.
Absolutely. The arc starts with tug of war. This track maps the brutal conflict between self-preservation, the desire to maintain the fortress, and the sheer crushing weight of his sins. The lyric, "Is it strength or is it fear that keeps me in this tug of war?" That's the central question of his 2024 psyche.
He has to admit that his alleged strength is just fear of consequence.
And that internal realization is devastating. It means the foundation of his entire identity is based on a lie.
And that leads directly to Crush.
This track is dark because it reveals a toxic need for connection, a clinging to adversity and pain, even if it's abusive or unhealthy.
He's seeking validation through survival.
Right, through enduring the painful interaction, the sweet collapse where I still stand. He's looking for external conflict to justify his internal suffering, rather than confronting the internal suffering itself.
He's still finding strength in the wrong place, in weathering the storm instead of building a stronger ship.
Exactly. But the turning point, the true shattering of the isolated fortress, is the track Help.
The sources describe it as a bare-bones piano ballad.
It strips away all the noise and the technological complexity. It shatters the tough guy facade entirely.
It's not just a cry for help. It's an acknowledgement of self-limitation, a plea for a lifeline, finally admitting, I cannot fix this alone.
This is the definitive moment of vulnerability. It took the combined pressure of 4 relationships, the scale of his past, and the internal decay to reach a point where the strategist admits that the solution is outside his personal system of control.
Asking for help isn't weakness.
It's the beginning of real strength because it opens the door to the collaborative effort necessary for true redemption. It reflects Zykova's need for the collective.
So the isolated fortress realizes its design flaw. It can't be fixed with logic and steel alone.
He has to let someone else or another part of himself in, and the collapse of the fortress creates a vacuum. That vacuum must be filled immediately with a new, stronger, and more principled philosophical framework.
And this one draws on Zykova's enduring structural integrity.
Precise.
The new framework begins with the core choice that catalyzes the 2025 shift agency. I am not what I've done, I am what I choose next.
And this moves the focus from the burden of the past to the utility of the present.
It's a radical reframing of identity.
It is. The past is non-negotiable. He killed 41 people. He cannot change that fact. But he can choose what that fact means for his future actions. It places accountability squarely in the present, not the retrospective.
And with this principle, resilience itself must be redefined. For the isolated fortress, resilience was being bulletproof, never bending. What does the redeemed strategist resilience look like?
It is the ability to handle adversity, adapt, and restart. He calls it the engine that lets you restart after stalling out.
So it's not about preventing the stall.
No, it's about guaranteeing the capacity to reboot and continue the journey. It's flexible durability.
The sources stress that this resilience is active and trained for, physically, mentally, and emotionally.
It is not passive survival. It's a learned, repeatable skill set, much like the precision skills demanded by the Zykova guilds.
And this requires a massive mindset shift, turning failure into feedback.
Yes. If he fails a task or makes a mistake, he doesn't internalize, I am a failure. He analyzes why it failed, adjusts the system, and sees the next attempt as simply the next iteration.
This disciplined self-correction transforms debilitating shame into useful data.
It's a sophisticated defense mechanism, replacing self-recrimination with analytical process.
But what about the danger of romanticizing the hardship? Zykova, after all, valorizes those who endured isolation.
And this is the crucial cautionary note he learns from his 2024 mistakes. Resilience is not romanticizing pain. The source distinguishes sharply. Pain isn't a virtue, endurance is. He endures the pain to move forward, not to prove he can suffer more than others. He endures to serve the chosen value, not to win a trophy for stoicism.
So he endured the pain of 2024, but only in 2025 did he realize he must endure the pain productively with a forward trajectory.
And this enduring effort culminates in the discipline of redemption. For Devon, redemption is not a one-time event granted by others.
No, it's a slow burn of integrity.
An iterative return, a continuous process of effort. It's earned piece by piece through loyalty, service, and disciplined reflection.
And this has to start with absolute honesty, genuine remorse, and accountability. The critical moment, as he states, is where denial ends.
Redemption starts right where denial ends. You gotta stop running from it.
He stops running from the 41 kills, the guilt, the internal chaos.
He doesn't demand forgiveness from the world. He focuses entirely on demonstrated change. That's encapsulated in his quote, "I'm not here to be forgiven, I'm here to change."
So redemption is in the repetition, not the speech.
Actions over words, acknowledging his triggers and patterns to prevent future harm.
And the tool he uses to facilitate this repetition is a disciplined form of stoicism. He realized in 2024 that stoicism had been his armor, leading to repression. How does he transition it to a tool in 2025?
As a tool, stoicism allows him to master his reactions and focus only on what is controllable. It provides clarity under fire.
Helping him sit with overwhelming shame or anger without letting it paralyze him.
And he uses that clarity to maintain focus on the task of redemption.
That makes perfect sense. Repression, the armor, means pushing the feeling away until it explodes. The tool means acknowledging the feeling, managing the reaction, and choosing a principled response.
It's the difference between denial and detachment.
And this choice is then tested in connection. Redemption must be tested in the humility of the chosen pack.
The focus must be on the harm caused, not just on his personal growth as a trophy to parade.
The principle he adopts is powerful. Redemption starts when you care more about the harm you cause than the image you project.
And that reframes the entire purpose of the discipline, moving it from ego maintenance to ethical service.
Connection is context. You can't redeem yourself in isolation.
No. You redeem yourself by showing tangible, lasting change in relation to others, rebuilding trust through interaction, loyalty, and service. As the source says, you may rise alone, but you redeem yourself together.
Which echoes Zykova's fundamental need for the collective to thrive.
This is perhaps the most advanced stage of the transformation, integrating the darkness. The past isn't a ball and chain or a wound that never heals.
It's raw material that shaped you. You have to own it. Don't glorify it. Don't destroy it.
So he embraces the role of the shadow walker. He doesn't pretend the darkness is gone. He carries the destructive potential, the ability to kill 41 people intimately.
But he now uses that knowledge to protect what is good. What does studying guilt mean practically? It's a very clinical, Zykova-esque phrase for something so deeply emotional.
It implies detached observation, replacing emotional wallowing with analytical process. He analyzes the roots and triggers of his past actions to prevent future harm.
It's discipline processing, identifying patterns of behavior and thought that lead to destruction.
He treats his own shadow as an object of forensic study to guarantee it never takes the driver's seat again.
That's the strategizing aspect. He uses his analytical precision to ensure his moral compass remains stable.
And everything funnels into the anchor principle, integrity. Resilience, redemption, and stoicism are all in service of maintaining that ethical compass and pursuing earned truth.
His goal is to live aligned with his new values.
Not defined by past shame or present fear. Integrity is the frost steel of his internal structure, heavy, durable, and resistant to compromise.
So we've established the isolated past and the philosophy of change. Now let's look at the functional transformed role in 2025.
This is where the Zykova framework of durable structure officially replaces the fortress wall.
And the core shift is functional. He moves from a wall,
Rigid, guarded, keeping things out.
to a framework. Structured, strong, designed to support and protect the entire internal system.
He is no longer just defending, he is building and enforcing the internal ethical boundaries.
He is now the redeemed strategist. He retains his intense analytical precision, the Enneagram 5 detached observer.
But now merges it with the force and assertiveness of an Enneagram 8, the challenger.
And that combination is transformative.
It is. The 5 gathers the critical knowledge. The 8 has the force to act on that knowledge and protect the internal collective. He becomes a disciplined thinker who acts powerfully and with principle.
He uses data to enforce moral boundaries.
And he becomes the emotional alchemist. He's taking the chaos of deep emotions and transforming them through system and structure, like music and tactics.
His quote, "Emotion is fuel, the system is how I burn it clean." That summarizes this new mastery.
He acknowledges the existence of powerful emotion, the fuel, but he uses structure, the system, to ensure that energy burns cleanly and productively rather than chaotically. He serves as the internal arbiter of truth, uncompromisingly honest with the self and others.
And the symbolic change reflects this shift. The horns of shame transform into a halo of earned wisdom.
Which is not a symbol of sainthood, but of emotional integrity forged through profound suffering and difficult work.
The wolf metaphor changes too. The lone wolf of 2024 is now loyal to the chosen internal pack.
His power now comes from owning his dark history and choosing to protect the collective, rather than denying that history or using it as an excuse for isolation.
This is the most practical and functional analogy provided in the source material. Devon operates as the internal sous chef under Val, who is designated the executive chef.
The visionary of the entire self.
Right. So the executive chef, Val, has the grand vision, the concept, the overall strategic plan. She might say, the internal project must produce something that tastes like integrated grief and rebirth, which is abstract.
Very abstract. And Devon, the sous chef, steps in and becomes the architect of stability.
So how does he ground that abstract vision in Zykova's reality?
He focuses intensely on method, timing, and structure. He asks the practical questions. How do we make grief and rebirth consistently delicious and stable? He provides the detailed execution plan.
Preventing the system from collapsing under the weight of the grief.
In the heat of internal pressure or chaos, he provides emotional containment. He is the calm hand that regulates the energy, ensuring that the self focuses on technique and process rather than panic.
It sounds like Zykova's stillness keeps the heat, applied to the psyche.
It is absolute thermal regulation of the self. He's the protector of standards, the ultimate internal quality control. No sloppiness allowed.
He ensures the internal output is honest and aligned with values, famously saying, no cutting corners.
If the output, a decision, a feeling, a boundary, doesn't align with the new integrity, he demands it be discarded.
He is invisible, indispensable, second in command, but first in execution.
He doesn't need applause. He needs the process to work, proving his redemption every day through focus, loyalty, and being unshaken. He embodies that functional, non-sentimental value system of Zykova.
When the self interacts with the external world, Devon steps forward. He functions as the internal integrity checkpoint.
Governing the quality of all external relationships.
Who is the boundary guardian, the internal firewall that protects against emotional manipulation, dishonesty, and the creeping dangers of codependency.
This is where the Zykova disdain for dead wind betrayal is applied most fiercely.
He spots the difference between genuine respect and convenience dressed as care, which is vital because the isolated self often mistakes manipulative connection for acceptance.
He acts as the emotional bodyguard. He helps regulate surges, intense grief, explosive anger, overwhelming attraction, so the self doesn't spill truth inappropriately.
He ensures that emotional energy is deployed strategically, not chaotically.
And he fiercely protects the right to walk away or stay silent when necessary, honoring Zykova's lesson that sometimes stillness keeps the heat.
He is the X-ray for hidden dynamics. He helps the self sidestep manipulation and refuse disrespectful games, seeing the lie before it's fully formed.
And finally, he is the moral spine. If the self is tempted to compromise values or slips up, he holds them accountable fiercely but clearly.
Like the performance-based council of iron.
Exactly.
And his internal voice here is incredibly pragmatic and demanding. You're better than this. If you forgot, I'll remind you. Now get up. It's tough love with strategic purpose.
He doesn't shame the system. He corrects the trajectory. He ensures the self shows up with grit, dignity, and precision. The disciplined labor of Zykova is applied directly to the ethical execution of the self.
This has been a profound, detailed, deep dive into the Zykova-Devon duality. We've successfully traced the journey from the harsh stoic demands of the frozen land.
The metaphor for the fear-driven internal fortress.
To Devon's ultimate transformation. And he didn't reject Zykova. He realized its core philosophy, that identity is forged through intentional action and discipline, not inherited guilt.
The shift from rigid control, which was fueled by the fear of being seen, to disciplined integrity, fueled by the principle of utility, is just staggering.
Devon's transformation is a powerful template for internal development that doesn't rely on external validation.
It just commands respect because it's built on verifiable, consistent effort. True growth, as we've seen, comes from integrating the pain, not denying the shadow.
The shadow walker knows darkness intimately, yet chooses to guard the light. The sous chef grounds the vision in stable, ethical reality.
The redeemed strategist acts with precision and principle. His story proves that every past failure, every moment of chaos can be transformed into raw material for building a stable, principled future.
Provided one applies intense discipline and accountability. So if you've been listening and tracking Devon's arduous journey, what does it mean for you to take that final challenge seriously? Devon's transformation required a foundational moment of raw honesty when he stopped running and faced what he was.
Redemption isn't a second chance, it's the first real one.
If that initial confrontation with your own shadow brings discomfort or fear, remember Zykova's lesson, etched onto the chart code. Maybe that fear isn't a stop sign. Maybe that is exactly where you need to start digging deep.